So guys, now that we've got the turbo and everything on in the previous video, I think it's time to start putting the front bumper on. I did tidy up some other little bits off camera on the last episode, like I done a horn bracket that I've mounted to my oil cooler, and I did tidy up some wiring. There were some like little plugs and bits and pieces that you don't need to use anymore because I've got the Syvex, so there's some things that you basically do away with once you've got a standalone ECU. And I did also give my intercooler a bit of a spray and redo a bit of the writing, just make it look a bit more tidy, as there's a lot of stone chips and things what's gone through the grill over the years. I'll just tidy up everything obviously as I can, but we'll get stuck straight into it. So putting these WRC bumpers on isn't actually as bad as what you think. When I first ordered this kit, I always thought it'd be an absolute nightmare to fit. Turns out all of it is actually pretty good fitment for something that is just done pretty much just of fiberglass molds, as that's all these bumpers are just fiberglass parts. Like I said, the fitment's pretty OEM really, with bolts fitting in roughly the same place as what standard bumpers and stuff would be. Here on the arches, all I've used is some bolts with washers, as I think this seems just to be the best way to get a secure fixing on the arch to the bumper. I mean, there probably is something else you could make up to be a bit more sort of structural. In my eyes, this bumper's never fell off or sagged or anything from me mounting it this way. Is it really worth it supporting it even more? Like I said, you can do for peace of mind, but personally, I've proven that you don't really need to, as there's enough support from the top as well as these sides, and there is support underneath the bumper as well, because it sort of follows under an under tray. I just thought I'd show you, if you guys are unfamiliar on these headlights, these ones are fully custom. But you have just plug here that you just plug this adapter straight into, and all the rest, these little clips here and a clip here, and it only holds in by one screw, so they're quite a simple headlight really to put in. So all you have to do is slot them in and screw the top down, and that's it, that's all in. Some of you may have noticed that these headlights have been cut. That's just what happens when these are monkey wrench lights, and that's pretty much what he does to split them. Just so you can see as well, that is where I've ended up mounting my horns. I redone this wire here for the horn bracket. I sprayed and mounted a bracket that goes onto these bolts here on the oil cooler, and it goes across, and I've just put a supporting bracket there, just because they used to come down this side. But as you can see, it dented the rad a little bit, and they sort of just rattled around down here. So that was just a lot better location for me. Plus, my air feed comes here straight to the turbo, which is this piece. So this side's got a stop, what your ST would, and this bit has it all open. So this just fits like so. And it puts basically an air feed straight up and over into this air filter. And this side's got the blank on it. So it's even things like, as you can see in this part, the top grille of the bumper, that is just a piece of mesh that I ordered cut out to fit, because you can get Sunsport top grills, but they never fit properly on these bumpers. That's why I always recommend to people to make your own top grille. But that being said, the bottom grills of these bumpers are Sunsport and they fit perfectly. It's just as top, for some reason, it's just a bit of a pain to fit. You never get the right fitment. These other bottom supports I was saying about, these literally just screw into your rad bracket. There is actually the holes for your under tray on the rad bracket, which are these white clips as you can see, and I've just made some spaces out of a piece of copper that I sprayed black and just screw straight into the rad bracket there, just to give the bumper that bit of support, because if you noticed on some of these they flap around underneath, and that's because they haven't got the support like this. So that's the front end all on now, as well as some more carbon bits that I put on. What we're going to do next is just chuck the wheels back on. The problem I've realised now is the wheel nuts I have, they're not open-ended. So with me extending the wheel bolts, I think they're slightly too long now, where you can tighten the wheel nut on, but it's not actually gonna, it'll go tight before tightening the wheel actually to the hub. So I've now got some new open black wheel nuts, which I think they're slightly better than the petrol coloured look thing I had, or titanium look I had before. So we'll get these on. As you've known by now with this car, everything's a learning thing for me as well as you guys. Me extending wheel bolts, I did think there might run into some issues with these nuts, but I didn't think it was going to be this bad where I could literally tighten them and the wheel still wobbled around. So it's a good job I've ordered these. So that's most of the wheel nuts on. I've left this wheel off. I've got it sort of back down to where it wants to be, mainly because when I top the oil up and when I do my gearbox oil, I just thought I need to try and get the car level as possible. But to get to the gearbox oil, you have to fill it up on a bolt on this passenger side down here. So I've left the wheel off and I've lowered it onto blocks of wood. I've put the wheel nuts on the discs just to support the disc a bit more, because I didn't want it to go a bit on an angle, which the disc obviously does move a bit when you haven't got the wheel on. So we'll get the gearbox oil topped up probably first, and then we'll do the engine oil last. For the gearbox oil, I used the Castrol stuff, which is 75W140, which I know is quite a high one. This is what I've been told to use all the time for the big turbo builds. I think it's about heat and stuff. This oil is supposed to be better than some of the others. So I've got a couple of bottles of this, and I think you just fill this up with a syringe through the bolt and you just go until pretty much it overflows, is what I think I've been told. So I will double check that, but that's what I think I've got to do. So I'll get a syringe and get this in. So this is the setup that I've got. Like I said, I've put the wheel nuts on the discs here just to support the disc when it goes on the block of wood. I've lowered it down as low as it goes. Where you top your gearbox oil up, I'm pretty sure it is that nut there, which is obviously lovely and easy to get to. I was going to try and tip the bottle into that, but I don't think I'm going to get it in. So what I'm going to do is, like I say, use a syringe, undo that and get this stuff in. I don't really know why they put this thing in such an awkward position. From the videos I've even seen online with people doing this job, not many people actually show you the exact bolt where you have to pour the oil into, because most of the time they can't actually see it. I did manage to get the camera in there to get a somewhat decent view of what you have to do. Really can't do this without a syringe. That is the main thing on doing the gearbox oil, is having the syringe handy. What I've been told to do as well is just literally fill it up until it pours out basically, and then that's when you know it's full. So that's all the gearbox oil done and that side out the way, and it's back on the floor finally. It's actually starting to look a bit more like a car now, which is good. It's quite nice to see it actually come back together to somewhat. Next up, we'll get the engine oil in. I use Titan Race Pro S, which is 10W60. This is the same oil I've used from the previous builds and stuff of this car. It always seemed to be alright for me. Like I say, the only time it went a bit funny is obviously I didn't change it that much and the bearing went, and I don't know, just something must have happened there, but now that's all sorted. Fingers crossed that don't happen again with this one. So we'll get this topped up. I'm gonna get it up to the right fill level now, but I know that when it comes to the first start, I am gonna have to crank it over to fill up all the lines and my oil cooler, just because it's a lot bigger than what the previous one would be on this car. So this holds slightly more oil than what like a standard ST or an RS would hold. We'll get this in and then another step closer. As you'll find out shortly, me pouring this oil in was pretty much a complete waste of time, as it turns out you have to actually use a mineral oil, not this oil that I've put in. You don't use really good quality oil to start off with on a fresh engine. We all learn along the way. I learned from my mistake and had to drain this stuff out. So guys, now that's the oil all done. Turns out it didn't go exactly to plan, just like most things with this car. What I done wrong is don't put that nice oil in the car first. What you need to do is run mineral oil and like a low quality, basically, of the oil to run in a fresh engine. Again, I didn't know this. I thought if I put expensive oil, it will make it better, like for running it in, because you've got nice oil instead of cheap oil. Turns out you can't have like fully synthetic oil running through like a fresh engine, because you need to bed things in, which that's why the mineral oil help bed in an engine. So basically I spoke to Rory, that's obviously built the engine and knows a lot more about this than I do. I asked him about it just because it was in the back of my mind. I didn't know if you did or not, so I thought it's worth asking. And yeah, basically what we ended up putting in is just some cheap 15W40 oil in, which is mineral oil. It could be any sort of brand. It hasn't got to be, again, good quality. That's what I've been told to run. What I've got to do is for about 50 miles, run it. Then I'll cut the filter, take the filter out. Don't drain the oil, but just take the filter out. Cut it open, check to see if there's any sort of like metal bits or anything like that, which fingers crossed there's not going to be. I mean, there might be little bits because it's being a fresh engine, but as long as it's nothing major, then that should be all good. Put another fresh oil filter in, run it for another 50 miles, and then drop the oil and put a fresh filter. And then finally, I can put the nice oil in the car and basically book mapping after that, because it will need another map again. It is all going to be pretty close, the map, because obviously from last time, but there's no two engines that are like, even though you use the same parts and things like that, it's still going to be something will throw something off. Could be anything. It's just safer to get it fully remapped and for them to check it, even if they have to alter a little bit just on the maps. At least it's a peace of mind for me and everything with the engine. At least I know it's 100% safe and good to go. So we'll book all that in, but that's a little way off that yet. I'm just going to worry about running it in and making sure it doesn't go wrong with me running it in for now. So there's the little update. Thank you, Rory, for again helping me out with whatever questions I have, no matter how sort of, I would say stupid, but it's close to it, I reckon. The only other thing I think I have left to do is sort out a bit of the wiring inside the car. I put a kill switch in the center console before, just so if I have any problems I could shut the car off. But what I didn't realize is that you're supposed to do the kill switch with the negative of the battery, not the positive. So I wired it into the positive wire that came across to this, because what I wanted to do is just shut the feed off to the ECU and everything, which would then turn the car off. With me doing that, like I said, I think I've just been coming across some like little electrical problems, and it seems to have only happened or only started happening since I done that. So I never got round to actually changing it and swapping it over yet, but basically all I'm going to do is cut it off and keep the wire where it just comes from the front straight to the back to the battery. So I think once I've sorted that out, then we'll be ready for a first start video. So this is the wire I need to just cut and rejoin. This is what I joined before. So this one comes from the battery in the boot. And then this one here that comes down there goes to the front of the car. Well, both these wires come through my center console and goes to a kill switch that's in here. But like I said, you need to really run a kill switch off the negative, not the positive. This is before I knew this. I cut in here and done this because that's what I thought was the right thing to do. Clearly it's not. So I'm gonna cut this off. I've got some new connectors and I'm basically just going to reconnect this wire to that wire again, and it'll go straight to the battery in the boot. And if I want to put a negative rewire, then yeah, I can get that from the boot just coming through the center console rather than all of this. I'll just take these out and do away with them. So we'll get this done. So this is what I mean by the wires. I've just taken these two off here. They were the couplings I used to crush. Luckily, I didn't solder nothing in there. I just crushed them. And that is what I've got now. So I just crushed it again, joined it here. So it just goes from the back to the front of the car, through the firewall there, up through there. But yeah. So I'll get all that put back together, and then I'll just reconnect the battery in the boot. And there's some other little bits I just want to tidy up under the engine bay as well. Doing this battery, I have to admit, is probably one of the hardest jobs I've done on this car so far, which seems really stupid, I know, because of me literally putting an engine straight in the car and replacing pretty much everything on the front end. You'll see in this video why this battery gave me so much grief. I think it's because I went at it thinking it's going to be an easy job, when clearly, for some reason, me and electrics just don't work together. I've always been told if you can't ever get something to work properly, then just smack it with a hammer, and 9 times out of 10 it normally works. For those of you that don't know, that just gave me an immense electric shock. Right. It didn't spark. Just so everyone knows as well, I might make this look easy. That was an absolute the job. I hope you guys, I just do it for enjoyment, you know, I just do it to make you guys laugh, that's all. Who would have thought that putting 2 new connectors on, well technically 1 connector on, is going to be this bad? Because when I was tightening this one up, that broke. As you can see, it's all a bit mangled and it snapped through there. There it is, cracked straight through there. And then I decided to shear the nut off on the new one, which, yeah. See, I did say I filmed this to document it, to make it easy. I'd rather put the engine back in the car than deal with that battery again. I can't even feel my hand now, it's just numb from electricity. But now that easy job's done, we'll move on to the next thing. And to finish off me working on the car today, I ordered just some black riv nuts, just to secure the power steering tank, like it was before. So now that's the battery and everything all connected, we've finally got power to the car. I haven't had the battery connected ever since it blown up. I've pretty much dragged it in here, cut the battery feed off, basically so it doesn't drain the battery and kill it, because they're not cheap batteries. We've pretty much got all the fluids topped up, everything. Like I say, I am going to check my coolant and my oil when I fire it up, but there'll be a whole startup procedure that I'm going to go through to fire it up anyway, which will either be like disconnect the injectors or disconnect the spark plugs, basically so I can turn it over and get the oil round before actually firing it up. Before all of that can happen, I am going to get Romain at RaceCal. That is the one that mapped this car, and he is like a whiz with the Syvecs like ECUs and other ECUs as well, just in the mapping sort of world. He is really, really good, and I highly recommend him to any of your builds you've got if you run a standalone ECU. He's just going to check it over and just make sure that nothing on the map side went wrong. We know it's the bearing, But again, I'm like 99% sure it's nothing to do with the mat, because it would have done it a long time ago. It wouldn't have just waited until now to magically blow up. He's just going to check it for my peace of mind before I start the car. I'll probably get some footage of that with him on the computer, going over different bits and pieces with it. I think he can see the log as well, because I think the Syvex saves the logs, and because I've disconnected it, haven't used it since, he should be able to find the log of when this car went wrong. Fingers crossed we can see what happens and see something. Hopefully it's all good, and that will be in the next video. So I'll see you guys as soon as he get me in for him to have a look, and then it will be the first start. Fingers crossed it all goes good, but until then, my work here is about done.
Why has this car just got to give me so much grief every day? I want to say it didn't hurt, but it does hurt. Oh my days, you son of a... Didn't they say disconnect the negative first? How is connecting the battery up the hardest job on this car? Right, and test you. Note to self, we're working on a battery, disconnect the negative first. Going home. I'm going home. What? It's just snapped the bolt off inside. I'm done. I'm done. That's it.
Back it up.
So, after some technical difficulties, I found a bolt. So, we'll carry this adventure on. Just like that. Easy. Didn't even struggle.